Good evening. In my previous speech, I directly addressed the dangerously misleading data around COVID deaths. I talked about the fraudulent misrepresentation and completely unethical manipulation of data measuring COVID casualties in America. I spoke on this subject from the expertise of having a professional background in data analytics and as a fellow concerned citizen who's now been placed in the position of having to blow the whistle on this deception. Please allow me to provide some background. In the early years of my career, I learned that data is an impartial concept, similar to math. It's a conceptual tool created for stating objective truths in an agreed upon language. To put it simply, data is raw information without any stories. One of the essential truths when working with data is that in order to make a fair and relevant interpretation of the information, aka the storytelling, or creating a narrative, that can be done if and only if the underlying information is subject to some standard of agreed upon language, governance, and integrity. If these truths don't exist, interpretations pulled from that data would never, ever be usable in any real-world professional setting. Here's an easy to understand example of how important data governance and data integrity are. Let's say you're a small business owner and you're gathering information to help promote your business. You want to position your store as a popular destination, so you analyze the numbers on how many customers you had last month. Now, because you already know the narrative that you want to communicate, you could then choose a number of different ways to collect and share data that supports your narrative, whether the data truly supports your narrative or not. For example, why not collect this information by watching the security footage at the entrance of your stores and count every individual that comes in the door? Well, when you account for the fact that families and friends often shop together, while other people enter and eventually exit without buying anything at all, how would those points of data compare to the number of transactions at the cash register? If you're counting one way and I'm counting another way, suddenly the number of customers starts to become a matter of opinion. How the number is calculated and who falls into the calculation depends on who you ask. This all happens because the definition of a customer was never agreed upon between us. That's the aspect of common language and governance. Along with the lack of transparency on the calculation methods, you can see that this data is nothing but smoke and mirrors. Poor data integrity is at the very least misleading. In the context of a nation trying to quantify risks associated with a deadly virus, it's horribly reckless. Hopefully you can see from that simple example, a statement such as backed by data can still be highly inaccurate and in some cases intentionally misleading. As I watch our mainstream media outlets and trusted public officials mishandle COVID data this egregiously, it's obvious that this is not accidental. They know what they're doing, and they should be ashamed. These exact methods of data manipulation have been used in propaganda campaigns since the beginning of politics. I'd like to thank you for having an open mind and being patient while I use the word data over 20 times in this speech. I realize this subject may not be as sensational as the mainstream news outlet stories. That's because I'm not trying to sell you anything, or to get you to come back after the commercial, or tune in tomorrow night. I'm just a data nerd who's been watching CNN, the CDC, Fox News, and even the White House completely botch the collection, interpretation, and communication of this extremely important information. I'd love to hear what you think.